all equals and all different means that we don't sound the same and we cannot do the many things that people can do, but we're still their friends and we don't have to treat them like the other ways. You can be friends to each other and you can play nicely with each other. It doesn't matter if Africa can't walk. You can still be friends.
St Matthias is committed to including equalities issues in the curriculum. Last year, the school invited a disabled trainer from World of Inclusion to lead 2 whole school assemblies and to work with some classes. Following this, Diane has been working to bring a disability equality perspective into the curriculum for this Year 1 class.
We've just carried on doing normal lessons that we would have done, but just having a heightened awareness to disability equality. Using it in storybooks, challenging stereotypes, fairy tales. It's no extra work, it's just literally, it's the teacher's way of thinking that has to change in order for the children's way of thinking to be altered as well. I said, "Good afternoon, Gideon."
To raise awareness and to support learning, Diane uses sign language alongside other community languages.
Thank you, Hannah. Well, what we do is we try and include signing as much as we can in literacy and numeracy, but we found that greetings were most important. It's one of the basic things that the children can learn, and so we do our good morning and our good afternoon sign, and we sign school dinners, pack lunches. Old MacDonald had a farm. We include it with our music and literacy, and we do a lot of songs, a lot of poetry, and in numeracy, counting games, counting songs, rhymes. We use it a lot, and they really enjoy it, and they think they're really clever because they know something different.
One pupil has limited mobility in one arm, and the class have chosen to use one-handed signs to include him.
Once upon a time, it was 10 o'clock. There lived the witch and
the class have been looking at stereotypes and the portrayal of disabled people in traditional fairy tales. This is part of their rewrite of Snow White.
Because they were different, and so people sent them away to the forest to hide.
Salome's parents are deaf and use sign language. The use of sign in class makes her feel welcome and confident.
The lady didn't even say sorry. She laughed, ha 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 ha, and then ran away.
This morning the class are finding out about the senses. Their exploration has been planned to help them think about how we experience the world and how different people's access needs can be met.
Well, I think they've understood that not everyone is the same as them, like they all say, and if they didn't have those 5 senses, or if they had other obstacles, any kind of obstacle in their way, that they'd just find other ways of getting around the problem. At that pink table, when you were pouring drinks, how did you know that you were getting to the top of the cup and your water wasn't going to overflow, Marcel?
Because we heard.
What did you hear?
We heard the noise.
You heard the noise of the liquid indicator went and you heard. So you used another sense and you just overcame that problem so quickly and easily.
To support the curriculum, Diane has ensured that disabled people are represented in class books, toys and games.
It's not difficult to get resources. We could go down to the RNIB shop and they've got plenty of things down there that we can use and implement in the lessons. And on the website, the Worlds of Inclusion.
This term's featured books include The Boy Who Grew Flowers and Seal Surfer. Both books include disabled children as central characters.
She had a lovely smile and she had one leg shorter than the other leg. And she also had a flower behind her ear. And everybody liked Angelina Quiz. She had loads of friends. And then she hears a knock on the door, and Rink has bought her the shoes. And he's put them outside the door with a bunch of flowers. And then he comes and he says, these are for you. And they fit perfectly because he was so clever, he worked out how to do it.
And it's reflected in some of their artwork. If you see up on the display, that little girl is based on Angelina. She's got one leg shorter than the other. And so they've really taken it on board, and they do reflect it in art and in their books and in their work.
Alongside this Year 1 work, the whole school is reviewing its use of books.
We're going to look at all of the books that were offered to the children, and we're going to provide a set of questions for teachers to consider when they're choosing books. So when they're using books in their teaching, whether it's guided reading or literacy or a class book, that they've considered the inclusion issues that they may draw out of a story that previously they wouldn't have considered actually being there in the first place.
Diane and her colleagues are convinced that the class are benefiting from an increased understanding of disability equality issues.
The children, their attitudes have changed, and they're including everyone else a lot more. And we did have a bit of name calling in the class. They wouldn't do that anymore, and I think we try and include everybody now, and they'll make a conscious effort of going over and saying, would you like to play with me, I want to do this. And the class motto that they adopted, all different, all equals, helped a lot, and it's reflected in all their play, and they talk about it and they use the language. They've become a lot more critical thinkers, if I can say that. In the past they would have just absorbed anything I'd said. So that's been one of the main positives that has come out of this project.
St Matthias School is building on the disability equality work that's been achieved in Year 1.
I definitely started implementing it into the planning throughout our key stage. So it's not just this class, just because we've had the project. And I've been checking up on the parallel classes, Year 1, 2, Year 2, to make sure that they're doing the same things as well, so that it's spread throughout the playground. I've been quite impressed doing playground duty. I've noticed my children have started spreading it to the other children without it being taught.
Including disability equality in the curriculum has increased children's understanding of impairment and difference, produced high-quality work, and fulfills one of the 3 aims of the primary curriculum: to engage children as responsible citizens.
Okay, we've just crossed over and we're standing around here.
We did a survey around Wapping, and we made a map with loads and loads of information on it, so we could get a better view of Wapping and how accessible it is for a person with a mobility impairment.
So this looks like a high curve, an obstacle for disabled people. Yeah, it's a high curve. It's higher up.
At St Peter's, disability equality issues and the social model of disability are being introduced within school assemblies and into the Year 4 curriculum through science, literacy and geography.
One of the topics that the Year 4 had to do was a survey of the local environment and how to improve it. So rather than doing a litter survey, which was on the plan, we went looking at how Wapping was accessible, if it was or if it wasn't, for a person with a visual impairment and a mobility impairment. Stairs, what kind of symbol could we do?
A zigzag.
So we took the skills that we wanted the children to learn: to complete a map, to read a map, keys, and then drawing conclusion from data, and just applied it to a different setting. I will do that again every year.
I think the council should change all the steps to ramps.
There are lots of cobbles and obstacles like bikes and lampposts.
There should be more railings and less obstacles for blind people. Please change Wapping.
We ended up writing letters to the council. I don't know if they'll ever act on it, and I doubt Wapping will lose its cobbles because of the historical value. But it actually gave children a real purpose. It enthused the children to no end, and we did a lot of homework related to it, and mainly because the children wanted to, and it got the parents talking about it, of thinking about the language they used, of thinking of how the expectations they have of someone with a disability, and maybe that they need to think about how they behave themselves rather than just putting the onus of disabled person to change, and it's someone else's problem. Also the shopkeepers, got them thinking about it a bit more.
The doors with the ticks are good for wheelchairs.
And the one with the red cross is bad.
We think more ramps and more shops should have ramps in it, and so it's easier for a person in a wheelchair to travel around Wapping.
The Year 4 pupils loved it. They liked to actually feel that they could make a difference in terms of their local environment and see the practical implications when they walked around. The display then went up outside Year 4. That's been great because it showed photos of the work that the children had done. And that was something that when we had our Ofsted inspection in December, they commented on and they were pleased with that work.
Cobbles are sometimes good for a blind person because when they take a step on cobbles, then they know they're on a road or near a road.
But there was one good restaurant that was a ramp, but it was behind the back, so you had to go through this flat place and you had to go through there. Then there was a ramp for disabled people to go up through.
Behind the front there were stairs.
I think that the children have now seen that all children are capable of success. And a very practical example of that is we've had links with a local school which has children with quite significant additional needs, and we've had a child that's come in from reception who's got a whole range of wheelchairs, and the children have really embraced that, and it's been very positive in how he's settled in our school.
So Nathan, this is a positive, so it would go another ramp.
We will do this disability equality work in the future because it had a really big impact on the staff and the children. They thoroughly enjoyed it. We were able to see that it's really practical to make links through geography, through science, also through literacy, and so as we review our curriculum we will look at more ways to include this in our work.
Yeah, but what have we got that is really good? We've got a ramp.
We've done it. Okay.
Nathan.
Come on. Push.
Anthony Giles School is a small 11 to 18 comprehensive school. We serve the market town of Wirksworth and the surrounding villages in the Derbyshire Dales. We have students who go off to Oxford. We also have students who have learning difficulties and who have disabilities as well. We have a higher than average number of students who are on the code of practice, and we are well above average for students who are statemented.
In 2009, a review of equalities work within the school highlighted a need for increased work on disability equality issues. The school began to address this with a whole school Disability Awareness Week.
The first part of it was about awareness raising. What does that actually mean? What are acceptable terms to use? What are not acceptable terms to use? What issues are there in the curriculum that we can sort of build on so that our individual students can learn about themselves? So what it did is actually opened up the whole discussion about disability in a way that we hadn't done before.
I want you to think about what you see on this poster and what this means to you if we're thinking about equality for people who have a disability.
She puts aside the differences, she puts aside the different clothes.
During the week, the whole school discussed a set of disability equality posters in mixed-age tutor groups and in class.
I put bullying, just a key word, just discrimination.
I think the key bit about it, students showed more empathy towards others, particularly during that week. And that's actually with students who find life quite a challenge at times in particular. But right across the school, you had other students saying, well, actually, I didn't understand that. Now I understand that. And I actually might treat other people slightly differently. And that has actually had a longer impact. And if you give students the confidence to talk about it, it encourages them to perhaps be more relaxed about taking risks in the classroom, about tackling new work with a renewed confidence, and that actually is what the national curriculum is sort of heading towards. And once you have that belief in yourself that you can actually do things, you can actually then become better, successful at learning.
She's wearing bright clothes.
What did students think of the week?
It made you think about your own behaviour and how maybe you've been insensitive to people or you've not understood things wholly, and sort of like the list of words that were saying that are offensive. You were like, I could say that twice a day and I didn't realise that it would hurt other people. And then it made you think, actually, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. I need to understand. And and then the whole school, you could see it have a difference through people thinking, actually, no, that's not nice. I'm not going to do that.
I think that it really helped people to realise that others do have to live with impairments every day, and that in a way they are stronger because of that. So I just think that maybe people might respect others a bit more because of that week.
During the Disability Awareness Week, the PE department introduced students to a number of disability sports. This was popular, and this work will be continued. Building on work done during the Disability Awareness Week, staff are now developing lessons which include disability equality and disabled people's experiences. In this humanities lesson, Sarah and a colleague from history have adapted an existing resource for this Year 8 class.
And for shell shock, because it will make them feel reassured. Yeah, reassured.
Some were mild injuries and some were extreme injuries, but there was a lot of men that were injured.
I guess because I'm an RE person, I always try to make it personal, so trying to give them the perspective of creating their own character and giving their own character an injury, I thought would perhaps help them to understand and to focus more on the subject.
Being shot
went through his chest and then it went through his back.
Okay, so that's one injury that he sustained.
And then he banged his head when he fell over.
You might decide that your soldier has had a mental injury, that they are traumatised by the war. How are you going to treat them?
Counselling, because he thinks he's going to die and stuff. And then
Sarah wanted the class to consider the injured soldiers' needs and their lives as disabled people after World War I. This approach to humanities and history fulfills a key learning objective in citizenship, to explore rights and responsibilities. Sarah and her colleagues think that this work can be effectively developed to make comparisons with the experience of disabled servicemen and women today, and to explore the history of disabled people in the community.
Yeah.
Is the government?
Good idea. Why do you think the government's responsible?
Would you say that's visible, Larry? Is it? Yeah. Cancer and then losing all the hair.
Today, Chris has planned this Year 8 lesson to explore visible and invisible common impairments and their effects on different body organs and the skeleton.
Lymph and immunity system.
I would say it's a twofold thing that I was trying to achieve. Obviously the science behind some of the impairments, the systems that they belong to, but at the same time I was also trying to keep aware of the social model and keep the perspective of raising awareness. I think that through awareness these kids can deal with disability when they see it much better. It's so different to how when I was at school and we didn't know anything, and sometimes we were even perhaps fearful to talk about it. Anyone tell me who this fella is? Go on.
Stephen Hawking.
Well done. He can't actually speak, so he uses the flicking of his eyes and into a computer that then makes the noise for him. Visible or invisible disability? What do you think? Go on.
Invisible.
Invisible. In fact, he is dyslexic. I am mildly dyslexic myself. What I really wanted to try and achieve was to get away from this idea of a group of normal people and then a minority of disabled people.
It does, doesn't it? Oh, my mum's got arthritis. My uncle has this and he used to have an injection.
Asthma, which is invisible.
The class includes 5 disabled students with learning difficulties.
Mine's rumpus.
They were starting to see themselves and, oh, okay, that's me. And a number of other times in conversation, oh yeah, I was born with a birthmark, or my sister's got that. And that's the lovely thing about these sort of lessons, is it brings it home and makes it real and makes it personal to everyone.
Migraine. Which is in the nervous system. Which is invisible again.
We've got barcode, ISBN numbers. What's an ISBN number? What information's passed on in a PIN number?
In maths, Naomi is also convinced that exercises with real-life practical applications engage students. Today, she's asking the class to investigate codes, and specifically Braille.
Yeah, that's a good one, Ellie. Now you always have 2 across, 3 down, possible ways of putting on these dots. So the first thing is I want to think, how many possible patterns are there if you've got 2 across, 3 down, and possibilities of raising some of them? I want a systematic way of working that out.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and then you go in last one. So that could work. 1, 2. So like this.
When the class were confident with the number of dot combinations, Naomi asked them to decode some Braille and then to write their own messages.
Found it's not
But then to change over from numbers into letters, you have to put your letter sign on again.
It's basically the same, just they can't see it, they have to feel it, but they still have to know the same things as we do.
So in the picture, we've got a guy in a wheelchair.
Helen and staff at Anthony Gell have set up a working group to ensure that work on disabled people's experiences and disability equality issues continue to be developed and incorporated throughout the whole school curriculum.
There's more resources around now than there were even this time last year, so that actually makes it easier to look at things. So we will plot what needs to be done, perhaps across a year group or perhaps even within a department. There will be a group of teachers who look at that to advise, to sift through the material. Because whilst there's more material around now, it needs to still be worked into schemes of work, so it's not a bolt-on extra, and it needs to become part and parcel of your normal teaching.
By embedding disability equality in the curriculum, the school is developing students as successful learners and confident individuals.